If you're struggling to design your clothing line in the most conscious and cost-effective way, this video will overview how to do just that. Let's dive in. My first tip is to be strategic with your products. If this is your first time launching anything, this is your first collection, I always recommend to our clients to launch with 1, maximum 2 products. That way you can focus on knocking them out of the park, you can save money and only have 1 material, and you can be really conscious and intentional about what you're creating. Even if this isn't your first collection, if you don't have massive amounts of funding, I hesitate to have you go out and have a 10-piece collection. That just isn't the best use of your time and your resources, in my opinion. And so really focus and try to be strategic with the products you do launch. And when it comes to being strategic with your products, you want to take a customer first approach. This is something we overview with our clients, and this is what the approach looks like. So first of all, you need to identify your ideal customer. Who are you helping, who are you supporting, and who are you really trying to go after with your brand? This is crucial because in today's day and age, there are so many fashion brands out there, and in order to stand out, you need to be laser focused on your ideal customer. So what does he, she, they love to wear? What are their pain points? And really try to get to know them inside and out. You can do surveys, you can do interviews, but really make sure you know who you're targeting. And then the next step in the customer first approach is to understand their problem. Long gone are the days where we just make product for the sake of making product and just to make a profit. Nowadays, in order to be successful, you have to be so strategic with your products and you have to be so intentional. They need to solve a problem for your ideal customer. And so we always recommend to our clients to do surveys so they have enough data to really solidify the problem they're solving for their ideal customer. Is it the fact that they are a 9-to-5 working woman and they don't have versatility in their wardrobe? They feel like they just have office wear, and so when they go out to happy hour with their friends or when they go out on the weekends, they look at their closet and feel like they have nothing to wear. If that's the problem you're solving for, then you really need to get to know it and try to think of a solution. A lot of founders I see commonly make the mistake of thinking about their products first and not really thinking about their customer and what problems they're solving. And that is so important if you want to be designing consciously and intentionally and also in a cost-effective manner. Because if you put your products first and you don't validate with your customers, you're going to be in a situation where you're sitting on massive amounts of unsold inventory, and that's extremely stressful. So once you've identified your ideal customer, you've understood their problem, the next step is to start to brainstorm solutions. This is where the strategizing of the product comes into play. So you're going to start to think about ideas you have, don't limit yourself at this stage, and really start to brain dump everything. Once you've done that, you can then narrow it down to your top 1 to 3 products, and then you want to co-create the solution with your ideal customer. This is key. You want to go out and talk to them and really validate these products that you're developing actually solve the problem or the pain point that they're experiencing. This is key, and then you also want to validate the fact that they would pay for this. There's nothing really else like this on the market, and the fact that you can actually do it and be successful with it. Once you've done that, you can then create the solution. You can do a minimal viable product, get their feedback on it, again, co-create it with them. And then once they're so excited to get their hands on it, you're confident you have something up your sleeves that will sell, then and only then are you going to go and make the product. So that's the customer first approach we always make our clients go through, and it is so important in this case as well, because if you want to design consciously and intentionally and in a cost-effective manner where you're going to be successful, this is crucial. Once you have an idea of the 1 or 2 products that you're making, if you do not have a fashion technical background, or even if you do and you're not confident in your abilities, do not DIY this. You need to hire and find an amazing design team. That is my next tip. Make sure you find and hire an amazing design team because they're going to be partnering with you, collaborating with you to bring your designs to life. With our clients, we always warm intro and connect them to the amazing designers that we work with. But in your case, you really need to spend the time, spend the effort, and do your due diligence before you hire someone. This is so crucial. I've heard so many horror stories, so Do not try to take the easy route out here. Really make sure you dedicate the time and the energy and the resources. That being said, I do have some tips for you that I don't mind sharing. So first of all, concentrate on finding a pattern maker first, because the pattern is usually the base of your design and usually the first step. And so if you find a really good pattern maker, they typically have people in their network that they can refer you to processes later on in your designs. So they likely have someone that they do for grading if they don't do grading themselves. They likely have someone that can do your tech pack if they don't do tech packs themselves. So start with finding a pattern maker and then you can work your way up towards the rest of the process. My second tip is just to ask as many questions as possible. Do not be shy. Make sure you do your due diligence. So you can scour the internet, Facebook groups, ask for referrals, and once you have a list of people, you just want to basically interview them and make sure you're comfortable working with them. You're going to be hopefully entering in a really long partnership with these people, so make sure you know their values, you know what they stand for, and your gut tells you that you can trust them. So here are some questions and things to ask them. First of all, you'll want to make sure that they can specialize and do what you need them to do. So if you're going to start a women's wear brand, just ensure that they're able to do that. Or if you're starting a handbag brand or a shoe brand, just make sure they have experience designing those pieces. Secondly, you want to ask for their portfolio and see a sample of their work. Ask for people they have worked with before, ask for references, and also see the quality of work and if you are happy with that or if that's something that's the standard that you're looking for. You also, of course, want to ask about pricing, you want to ask about lead times and what their process looks like. And then last but not least, you also just want to ask about their values. Are they someone that cares about sustainability? Are they a zero waste pattern maker? Are they into ethical production? Ask about all those things, and honestly, this person is going to be such a crucial partnership for your business. You need to make sure you can trust them and you can really foresee yourself working with them long term. So do your due diligence, take your time, and if people get annoyed at all your questions, then that's an orange or a red flag not to work with them. Because if they're getting like that in the sales process, imagine what it's going to be like when you actually start to work with them. And again, if you're not going to be working with us and we're not connecting you or warm introing you, do your due diligence. I cannot stress this enough. Do not skip out on this step. Spend the time and the energy required, because I have heard so many horror stories, and I'm sure you have as well, and this is not to scare you, this is merely to really push you to do your due diligence and ensure you're comfortable before you move forward. Now that you have solidified your products, you found and hired your design team, my next tip is to trust them and collaborate with them. Once you found your dream team, it is so important to empower them and utilize them to their full potential. And so you need to lean on their expertise, you need to trust them, and you need to give them all the information they need to succeed. So that means telling them who your ideal customer is, sharing the problem that you're solving with them, and also the co-created solution. Your designers will have the technical expertise and they can show you and really share with you the commercial viability of products. They can show you how to make things easier, how to cut costs. And so that's why it's so important to hire and find the right people, because the right people will be experienced enough to help you in those areas. I'm going to dive into the design process next so that you know how to go from idea all the way to finalized product. But before I do so, I wanted to quickly let you know that we have an amazing free ebook. It outlines our signature launch method, which allows our clients to successfully launch and make at minimum $20,000. I share my secret strategies as well as exercises and free resources to support you. So make sure you download the ebook. It is 30 pages long and valued at over $50. You can snag it at recloseted.com/launch, and the link is also in the description. Now let's dive back into the video. My next tip is to follow the design process. People often ask, how do I go from idea all the way to finalized product? And I'm going to break it down for you now. That being said, before we dive in, I wanted to preface this with two things. First of all, this is the process that the designers we work with typically follow. And then second of all, the other thing to keep in mind is that I'm going to explain this in a linear process so that it is easier for you to understand and digest. But the reality of the situation is when you're actually going through this process, there might be steps that happen at the same time. And so it may not be as clean cut as this, but that's okay. That's reality. But for the sake of this explanation and for this example, that's what we're going to go with. So the first step in the design process is taking that customer first approach. This is so crucial. You need to identify your ideal customer, understand their problem, co-create that solution, and then go out and make it. Once you have done that, you then want to translate those solution that you have made, and you want to be able to communicate that to your design team. So how you're going to be able to do that is through sketches and or mood boards. And even if you suck at drawing like I do, even basic drawings or basic descriptions will really help, and that will allow you to get what's in your head down onto paper so that people can start to see it and we can start to conceptualize it. So sketches and mood boards are always the way to go. And then the next thing you'll want to do is start to look at materials. Engage your designer throughout this process, get their thoughts on what fabrics they think would be best, but you can start to ask for swatches from mills. And if you want tips on how to source fabric, let me know in the comments and I can do another video on it. So you're gonna source for materials in the background, and then in the meanwhile, you're gonna get kickstarted on the design process. First up, you're gonna start with pattern making. So the pattern maker you have hired, they're gonna help you with this. And essentially, this is the first step in conceptualizing your product. So based off the sketch and based off your discussions, your pattern maker will go off and make your base pattern. And this whole process is basically them taking 2D paper, because paper is 2D, and trying to figure out how to make a 3D product, which would be your clothes. So in the example of my shirt, for example, this is 3D and it's on my body, and there's various seams so that it can drape a certain way. For your pattern, they're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna pretend the paper is your fabric, and they're gonna figure out what the fabric cuts need to be, where the seams need to be, so that it can drape at the end in a way that you want. So they're gonna take a 2D paper and really turn it into a 3D product. In regards to your base pattern, this is the one that you're gonna work off of, and it's really important to discuss with your pattern maker the base pattern in terms of the size you're using, especially if you want to be a more size inclusive brand. You kind of want it to be in the middle of the range. And then also, if you hire a really good pattern maker, you can actually reuse parts of this base pattern for future collections. So for example, if you're making a dress and there's the top and the bottom, perhaps you use the bottom part of the dress for a skirt in a future collection, or you use the top part for a shirt. And so this is an investment, and if you're smart about what this looks like, you can actually reuse things for future collections. So the pattern is the next step. After the patterns, you want to go into digitizing. That is basically turning your flat paper renderings or your flat paper patterns. Your pattern maker, or they'll hire someone to basically use a remote tool to scan it, put it into the computer, and then that way you can see your patterns on a file, and it's easily accessible, it's easily shareable, and you can collaborate on it. So that's what that is. And then once that's done, you want to start to make some samples, because it's really important to see how it's going to fit, how it's going to drape, and if you want to make any tweaks. In terms of samples, ideally you can make them out of your top few material choices to see if you actually like them, because when you're getting swatches, you're going to touch them, you're going to feel them, you're going to wash them, that's all great. But until you actually make clothes or make garments out of them, you won't really see if you actually like them fully, and things stretch differently when they're worn, so you just want to make sure you try to get some samples made out of your favorite materials or your top 3 or top 5, and then you can decide. And once you've done all the samples and the fittings and you're happy with your base pattern and that's been solidified, then you move on to grading. Only do that after your base pattern's been finalized, because it's a waste of time and a waste of money for you to be grading before that's done. So the grading process is the process of making new sizes. And so for your base pattern, if for example you decide to do the middle of your size range, which is generally what we recommend, and let's pretend that's a medium, then you're going to make a small, an extra small, and a large, and extra large, or whatever your size range is based off your base pattern. And grading is just essentially using a formula to be able to figure out how the body is going to change based on different sizes. So then you're going to be able to make your small, your extra small, your large, and your extra large. The next step is your markers. Markers are essentially an instruction manual on how to cut fabric for your clothes. That's how I like to think about it. So it'll be basically a large sheet of paper with your patterns collated on it. So let's say for this shirt, we had one pattern for this side, one pattern for this side, and one for the back. So for those 3, we would lay it out on the paper in a way where we save as much fabric as possible. There's not a lot of waste. It's like Tetris, right? Like you try to eliminate the gaps. And this is really important so that you get to not waste fabric, which in turn helps you have a better environmental impact and also saves you money. Once you have finalized everything and you're happy with it, it will all go into a technical package or a tech pack. You're going to be creating a tech pack for each of your garments, and I like to think of this as an instruction manual you're giving your manufacturer so they know exactly from A to Z how to produce your products. The tech pack is so important and it's crucial that you have everything in there that they need. And a tip I have for you is to always document your changes. Throughout this entire process, you're going to have a lot of different iterations and a lot of feedback for your design team and even potentially for your manufacturers. So make sure all of that is documented and detailed. Give feedback as well about what you want to be changed, how you want it to be changed, and also paint done. I like to talk about painting done as what does the final product actually look like? If you want to change a seam here, if you want to tuck this in, what do you want it to look like overall? Because sometimes what you picture in your head is not what other people picture in their head. So just making sure that you make things as clear as possible. So you minimize the back and forth, you minimize any changes that you need to make. The other thing too is make sure you document everything so that you can really cover yourself in case something happens. I'm not saying that something will happen, I'm just saying in case there's a mishap or something occurs, you just want to make sure that you've taken care of yourself. So document everything and be as clear as possible. And so this is the general process that the designers that we recommend to our clients go through. And it's not always going to be this linear. Sometimes steps will happen simultaneously, sometimes steps will be delayed. That's fine, but you generally need to make all of these different things in order for your garments and your products to be successful. So make sure you trust and follow the design process. And my next tip is to ask questions and really stay in the loop. There's no such thing as a stupid question, especially if this is your first collection and especially if you don't have a fashion background. Do not be shy. Ask your designers why they're doing certain things or why things are done that way. Same thing with your mills and manufacturers. Ask them a lot of questions. Take your learning into your own hands, but also make sure that you can be responsible for your product quality at the end of the day. Do not be shy, and if at any point anyone you are working with gets annoyed with all your questions or things like that, they're probably not a good fit for you. So ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If you watched until this point, comment, I'm going to design my clothes the right way so that we can support you and cheer you on. Friendly reminder that we have an amazing free ebook that outlines my launch method that helps our clients make $20K upon launching and also details my secret strategies. In the ebook, there are also additional resources and additional tools to help you launch. So make sure you download it at recloseted.com/launch, and the link is also in the description. Thank you for watching this video. I am so honored to be a part of your journey, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Together, let's transform the harmful fashion industry.